They say a single sentence can build a career or end it. Think about that for a moment. We live in a world where your words carry more weight than ever before. A careless remark can destroy credibility in seconds. A powerful statement can win trust that lasts a lifetime. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't know how to talk like leaders. They stumble, they mumble, they fill the silence with and like. And without realizing it, they shrink their authority every time they open their mouth. But the opposite is also true. The right tone, the right pause, the right story. And suddenly, people lean in. They listen. They follow. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from. And make sure to subscribe. Because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Think about the leaders you admire most. Was it their title that made you respect them? Or was it the way they spoke? Martin Luther King Jr. didn't have a throne, but his words shook a nation. Steve Jobs didn't just sell products. He sold visions with carefully crafted sentences. Barack Obama didn't just run campaigns. He inspired millions through the rhythm of his speeches. Titles come and go. Positions change. But words stay. Now let me ask you this. Have you ever been in a meeting where no one listened to you? You had good ideas, but somehow they never landed. Meanwhile, someone else said almost the same thing, and everyone nodded, as if it was genius. That's not luck. That's not politics. That's communication power. And the good news is, it's not reserved for the few. It's a skill. A learnable, trainable, repeatable skill. This series is about unlocking that skill, not through tricks or gimmicks, but through timeless principles, owning your voice, cutting the noise, mastering the pause, speaking less, meaning more, using stories instead of stats, choosing words that influence, carrying yourself with presence and confidence. Do these things consistently, and you'll stop sounding like just another employee. You'll start sounding like the leader people actually want to follow. Because here's the reality. Leadership isn't given, it's earned. And one of the fastest ways to earn it is through your words. Every conversation is a stage. Every meeting is a test. Every sentence is a chance to lead or to lose influence. And the choice is yours. By the end of this journey, you won't just know how to talk like a leader. You'll sound like one. You'll feel like one. And eventually, you'll be recognized as one. So let's begin. Let's strip away the noise. Let's rebuild your communication from the ground up. And let's turn the way you speak into the most powerful leadership tool you've ever had. Chapter 1. Own your voice. Your voice is the first signal of your leadership. Before people see your resume, before they know your achievements, before they even understand your ideas, they hear your voice. And in that first moment, they're making decisions about you. Do you sound confident or unsure? Do you sound like someone worth following, or someone still trying to figure it out? That's the reality most people ignore. If you don't own your voice, nobody else will listen. Think about the last time you heard someone speak with a shaky, uncertain tone. Their words might have been smart, even brilliant. But did you believe them? Probably not. Because communication isn't just about content. It's about delivery. Now let me be honest. Owning your voice doesn't mean having the deepest baritone or the smoothest tone. It's not about sounding like Morgan Freeman or Oprah Winfrey. Owning your voice means controlling it. It means speaking with intention instead of hesitation. It means using your tone, your pace, and your volume as tools of influence. Picture this. You walk into a boardroom. Executives are seated around the table. The tension is high. Your turn to speak comes up. Option 1. You clear your throat nervously, rush your words, and your voice cracks halfway through your sentence. Everyone looks down, politely pretending not to notice. Option 2. You take a breath. You start with a steady, calm tone. Your words land one by one, measured, certain. And suddenly, the room is quiet. People lean in. What changed? Not the idea, not the content, just the voice. That's the power of owning it. Here's the mistake most people make. They think leadership comes from titles, not tones. They think influence comes from authority, not articulation. But history proves otherwise. The most powerful leaders weren't always the richest or the highest ranked. They were the ones who could command attention with their voice. So how do you own your voice? Let's break it down. Control your tone. A high, uncertain pitch communicates nervousness. A lower, grounded tone communicates authority. You don't have to fake it. Just breathe deeper, slow down, and let your voice settle. Control your pace. Rushing screams insecurity. Speaking too slow sounds unsure. The sweet spot is deliberate. Steady enough to be clear, varied enough to stay engaging. Control your volume. Too soft, and you disappear. Too loud, and you sound defensive. Volume isn't about shouting. It's about making sure the furthest person in the room feels you. And here's a secret. Owning your voice isn't just about how others hear you. It's about how you hear yourself. When you speak with strength, you start to believe your own words. Your confidence grows with every sentence. Your leadership expands with every conversation. That's why the discipline of speaking well isn't just a tool. It's a transformation. Let me give you a real example. There was a young manager at a Fortune 500 company. Smart guy, great ideas. But every time he spoke, his voice betrayed him. High-pitched, fast, shaky. People ignored him in meetings. They thought he lacked confidence. In reality, he just lacked vocal control. He started working on his voice, practicing breathing exercises, recording himself and cutting out the rushed phrases, slowing down, lowering his tone by one register. 6 months later, same man, same company. But now when he spoke, people listened. They even started asking for his opinion first. Why? Because he owned his voice. Here's the blunt truth. If you don't control your voice will control you. It will betray your nerves. It will reveal your fear. It will shrink your authority before you've even made your point. But when you own it, when you shape it, train it, and use it with intent, it becomes your weapon. It becomes your signature. It becomes the reason people stop scrolling, stop talking, stop doubting, and start listening. So here's your challenge. For the next week, pay attention to your voice. Record yourself. Notice where you rush, where you stumble, where your tone cracks. Then slow down. Drop your voice into its natural, steady register. Speak as if every word carries weight. Because it does. Leadership isn't about shouting the loudest. It's about speaking with such clarity, such confidence, such presence that people can't help but lean in. And that begins with you. Not your title, not your position, not your resume, your voice. Own it, and you'll own the room. Chapter 2. Cut the noise. Remove fillers. The first time you speak in a meeting, people don't just hear your ideas. They hear your confidence. They hear your clarity. Or they hear the noise. And for most people, the noise is louder than the message. What is that noise? It's every like, every you know. It's the stumbles, the fillers, the nervous chatter you use to fill silence because silence feels scary. Here's the truth. Every filler word weakens your credibility. You could have the smartest idea in the room, but if it's buried in clutter, people tune out. Think about this scenario. You're interviewing for your dream job. You sit across from the hiring manager and they ask, "Tell me about your leadership experience." Your answer, well, I guess I managed a team of 5 and we, tried to. Do you think they hear your leadership? Number. They hear hesitation. They hear insecurity. They hear someone who doesn't sound ready. Now imagine the same answer, but clean. I managed a team of 5. We set clear goals, tracked our progress, and delivered results ahead of schedule. Same experience. Different delivery. One sounds like a leader. The other sounds like a follower still figuring it out. So why do we use fillers? Because silence feels awkward. We panic when there's a gap, so we plug it with noise. But here's the secret. Silence is power. A pause is not weakness, it's confidence. It shows you're in control of your words, not scrambling to find them. Here's the problem. Most people never notice how much noise they create. They've spoken that way for years, and every filler word has been quietly stealing their authority. But once you notice it, you can fix it. Let me break it down. The steps to cutting noise are simple. First, record yourself. Give a 2-minute talk on anything. Your weekend, your job, your goals. Play it back and count the fillers. It'll shock you. Second, replace fillers with pauses. When you feel the urge to say, stop, take a breath. Silence beats noise every single time. Third, shorten your sentences. The longer you drag a thought, the more space for fillers. Tighten your delivery. 1 idea per sentence. Direct, sharp, clear. Think about leaders you admire. Do you remember them rambling with, Or do you remember the way their words hit? Martin Luther King Jr. didn't say, I have a dream, He said, I have a dream. Clean, powerful, unforgettable. Here's a blunt truth. Fillers make you sound younger, weaker, and less certain. And that's exactly why people in authority don't use them. Executives, politicians, world-class communicators. They're not smarter than you. They're just cleaner. They've trained the noise out of their voice. But let's get practical. Here's an exercise you can start today. Take a 1-minute script, deliver it slowly, focusing on pausing instead of filling. Each time you catch yourself about to say, close your mouth and breathe. It'll feel awkward at first, but with practice, silence starts to feel natural. And when silence feels natural, you stop leaking power. Now let me warn you, cutting the noise won't make people applaud. Nobody will say, wow, you used fewer ums today. But they will feel the difference. They'll lean in when you speak. They'll trust you more. They'll believe in your words. And that's the point. Leadership communication isn't about impressing. It's about influence. And influence requires clarity. So here's the challenge. For the next week, cut 1 filler word at a time. Maybe start with like, then, then. Each one you remove sharpens your voice. Each pause you master strengthens your presence. Each sentence you clean makes you sound more like the leader you're becoming. Because at the end of the day, people don't follow noise. They follow clarity. They follow certainty. They follow leaders whose words cut through the clutter. So cut the noise. Own the silence. And watch how quickly people start listening. Chapter 3. The Power of Pauses. Most people think leadership is about what you say, but sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing. Silence, when used with intent, is not weakness. It's authority. It's control. It's the moment when your words land hardest. Think about the last time you heard a truly great speaker. Did they rush? Did they fill every second with sound? Or did they leave space? Space for you to absorb. Space for the weight of their words to sink in. That space, the pause, is what made the message unforgettable. Here's the truth. A 3-second pause can hit harder than 30 words. Steve Jobs knew this. When he introduced the iPhone in 2007, he didn't just say, "Today, Apple reinvents the phone." He paused before it. He let the silence build. He let the audience lean in, waiting, hungry, and then he dropped the line, and the room exploded. It wasn't just the words. It was the pause that made the words historic. But most of us are terrified of silence. We rush, we cram, we stumble over ourselves trying to avoid the awkward gap. Why? Because silence feels exposed. It feels like weakness, like we've lost control. But here's the paradox. The one who can handle silence controls the room. Picture this. You're in a job interview. They ask you a tough question. Your instinct is to panic, to blurt something out. But instead, you pause. You take a breath. You hold their eye contact. That pause tells them everything. You're composed. You're thoughtful. You're in control. And when you finally answer, your words carry 10 times the weight. Pauses aren't empty. They're charged. They're filled with anticipation. And anticipation is influence. Think about music. Without pauses, it's just noise. The notes matter, but the space between them is what makes it music. Speech is the same. Here's how to use pauses like a leader. First, pause before impact. When you're about to deliver your key message, stop. Let the silence build tension. Then hit with clarity. Second, pause after impact. When you've said something important, don't rush to the next line. Let it breathe, let people process it. Third, pause to reset. When you lose your place, don't panic. Don't fill the gap with noise. Pause. Take a breath. Start again. It'll look intentional, not like a mistake. And here's the beauty. Pauses don't just change how others hear you. They change how you feel. When you pause, you breathe. When you breathe, you calm down. When you calm down, your confidence rises. The pause becomes your anchor, your reset button, your secret weapon against nerves. Let me tell you a story. A young woman was terrified of public speaking. Every time she gave a presentation, she spoke like a machine gun, fast, frantic, no air. Her words blurred together. People tuned out. She worked on one thing, pausing. At the end of every sentence, she stopped for 2 seconds. At the start of every key point, she paused for 3. At first, it felt unbearable. The silence seemed endless. But something changed. People started leaning in. Her ideas landed. Her confidence grew. 6 months later, she wasn't just speaking. She was commanding rooms. Not because she changed her ideas, but because she learned to own the pause. Here's the blunt truth. If you can't handle silence, you'll never master speech. Leaders aren't afraid of the quiet. They use it. They weaponize it. They understand that silence makes their words echo louder. So here's your challenge. For the next week, practice pausing. Before every answer, pause for 2 seconds. After every key point, pause for 3. When you feel nervous, pause, breathe, and reset. It'll feel strange. It'll feel uncomfortable. But that discomfort is growth. And soon, what felt awkward will feel powerful. Because at the end of the day, leadership isn't about rushing to be heard. It's about speaking so deliberately, so confidently, that people can't forget what you said. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you'll ever say is nothing at all. Chapter 4. Speak less, mean more. In today's world, everyone's talking. Endless emails, constant meetings, social media noise. But here's the paradox. The more words people use, the less anyone listens. Great leaders know something most people don't. You don't need to say more to be remembered. You need to say less and mean more. Think about this. How many times have you sat through a presentation that dragged on for 20 minutes, but you walked away remembering nothing? Now compare that to a single quote, a single sentence, that stuck with you for years. Words don't matter because of length. They matter because of weight. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't speak in paragraphs that people memorized. He gave the world 4 words. I have a dream. And those words echo through history. Abraham Lincoln, in his Gettysburg Address, spoke for just over 2 minutes. Yet that short speech is still one of the most quoted in American history. Why? Because brevity forces clarity, and clarity creates impact. Here's the mistake most people make. They think more words equal more credibility. So they ramble, repeat, and explain until their message drowns in noise. But leaders? Leaders edit. Leaders cut. Leaders deliver only what matters, and nothing more. Let me paint a scene. 2 managers present to the executive team. The first talks for 15 minutes, charts, bullet points, endless explanations. By the end, the executives are checking their phones. The second speaks for 5 minutes. 1 key idea, 1 clear example, 1 confident recommendation. Who do you think made the bigger impact? Not the one who spoke longer, the one who spoke better. Here's the truth. Every extra word dilutes your message. If you want your words to land, cut the fluff. If you want your message remembered, sharpen it to its core. If you want to sound like a leader, stop proving how much you know and start showing how clearly you can say it. So how do you speak less and mean more? First, know your point. If you can't summarize your message in 1 sentence, you're not ready to speak. Second, cut the extras. Words like basically, actually, kind of, sort of weaken your message. Delete them. Third, aim for punchlines, not paragraphs. Instead of burying your point in a wall of words, drop it like a hammer. Think about it like this. Every conversation has an attention budget. Spend it wisely. If you waste it on filler, you'll run out before the real message lands. But if you deliver 1 strong line, people will carry it with them long after you've left the room. Let me give you a story. A startup founder pitched her company to investors. She had a 30-slide deck full of details. But halfway through, she noticed the investors losing focus. She stopped. She closed the laptop, and she said 1 line. We're not just building an app, we're changing the way 10 million people shop every day. Silence, then nods, then interest. That one line did more than the entire presentation, because it was clear, it was short, and it meant more. Here's another example. Winston Churchill, leading Britain through its darkest hours, didn't give long lectures. He gave short, unforgettable lines. We shall never surrender. That one sentence carried a nation, not because it was long, but because it was true, direct, and powerful. Here's the blunt truth. People don't have time to decode your meaning. If you don't deliver it clean, they won't remember it. You're not rewarded for how much you say. You're remembered for how much you mean. So here's your challenge. Take one idea you want to share this week. Write it down in a single sentence. Then practice delivering it slowly, clearly, confidently. No rambling, no fluff, just power. Because when you speak less, people listen more. When you mean more, people remember. And that's the difference between just talking and leading. Chapter 5. Storytelling like a leader. People don't remember data. They remember stories. You can throw numbers, percentages, and statistics at an audience all day. But if there's no story, it slips through their mind like water through a sieve. Why? Because humans aren't wired for data. We're wired for narrative. Think about this. When was the last time you remembered a spreadsheet? Now think about the last time you remembered a story someone told you. It sticks. It lingers. It moves you. That's why leaders tell stories. Not because stories entertain, but because stories influence. Here's the science. Neurologists found that stories activate up to 7 different regions of the brain, compared to only 2 when listening to raw facts. Translation? Your brain is 20 times more likely to retain a story than a statistic. So if you want to lead, stop flooding people with data. Start giving them stories. Picture this. 2 CEOs are pitching their vision. The first says, "Our company has a 14% increase in quarterly growth, and projections show a 25% rise by next year." The second says, "Last year, a single mom downloaded our app. In 6 months, it saved her over $1,200. She told us that money meant her kids could finally join soccer." Imagine what happens when 1 million families feel that freedom. Which one sticks? Which one makes you care? The story. Every time. Here's the truth. Data informs. Stories transform. That doesn't mean you abandon numbers. It means you wrap them in stories. Because numbers appeal to logic, but stories connect to the heart. And people follow leaders who reach both. Think about Barack Obama. He didn't just say, "We need affordable health care." He told stories of families who couldn't afford medicine. He painted pictures of parents choosing between rent and treatment. That's what moved people. Facts alone don't drive change. Stories do. So how do you tell stories like a leader? First, start with a person, not a point. Instead of saying, "Our product reduces costs," tell the story of the customer who saved their first $100. Second, use conflict. Every good story has tension. The problem creates the weight. The solution creates the relief. Third, land the lesson. Don't just tell for entertainment. Tie it back to your message. This isn't just one customer's story. It's the future we're building for millions. Here's a quick framework. Someone, introduce the character. Struggle, show the pain or conflict. Solution, reveal the breakthrough. Significance, connect it back to your message. That's leadership storytelling. Let me give you an example. A young entrepreneur once pitched to investors. He started with a chart. Eyes glazed over. He switched tactics. He said, "When I was 10, I watched my mom work 2 jobs and still struggle to pay bills. I built this company because no parent should have to choose between food and electricity. This is more than a business to me. This is personal silence." The investors leaned in. The data mattered later. The story mattered first. Here's the mistake most professionals make. They think telling stories is unprofessional, that it makes them sound soft or unserious. But the opposite is true. The greatest leaders, from generals to presidents to CEOs, are master storytellers. Because stories don't just entertain, they mobilize, they inspire, they ignite action. Here's the blunt truth. If you can't tell stories, you can't lead. Because leadership isn't just about delivering information. It's about sparking transformation. So here's your challenge. This week, pick one story from your own life. Something real, something human. And practice telling it in under 2 minutes. Then connect it to a lesson. Show how it shaped you, or how it connects to your vision. When you share it, watch how people react differently. Their eyes don't wander. Their attention doesn't fade. Because you're no longer just talking. You're leading. Remember this. Data will be forgotten. Stories will be repeated. So don't just speak like a professional. Speak like a leader. And leaders tell stories. Chapter 6. The Language of Influence. Words are not neutral. Every word you choose either builds your authority or weakens it. And if you want to lead, you have to master the language of influence. Think about this. How often do you hear people start with, "I think," or "maybe we should"? It sounds soft. It sounds hesitant. It sounds like they're asking for permission instead of making a decision. Now compare that to, "I believe this is the best path forward. We will make this happen." Do you feel the difference? One sounds like uncertainty. The other sounds like leadership. Here's the truth. Weak words create weak leaders. Strong words create strong influence. Picture a team meeting. 2 managers pitch the same idea. The first says, "I think this might work. Maybe we could try it." Half the team checks out. The second says, "I believe this will work. Here's how we'll make it happen." Suddenly, the team leans forward. Same idea, different words, different impact. Language shapes perception. Perception shapes trust. Trust shapes influence. If your words sound weak, people assume you are weak. If your words sound confident, people assume you deserve to lead. Here are the shifts you need to make. First, replace "I think" with "I believe." "I think" sounds unsure. "I believe" sounds grounded. Second, replace "maybe" with "we will." Maybe invites doubt. We will commands trust. Third, replace "try" with "commit." We'll try says failure is acceptable. We commit says success is non-negotiable. These aren't just word swaps. They're mindset shifts. When you speak with conviction, you lead with conviction. Think about leaders you admire. Did Steve Jobs ever say, "We'll try to launch a new product"? Number. He said, "Today, Apple reinvents the phone." Did Winston Churchill say, "Maybe we can win this war"? Number. He said, "We shall never surrender." Leaders don't speak in hesitation. They speak in certainty. But here's the catch. Certainty doesn't mean arrogance. It doesn't mean pretending you know everything. It means choosing words that project clarity instead of doubt. You can still admit uncertainty without sounding weak. Instead of saying, I don't know, say, I'll find out. Instead of, I'm not sure, say, let's clarify this together. See the difference? One kills trust. The other builds it. Let me share a story. A young executive was brilliant with strategy but struggled in meetings. She always said things like, I think maybe this could work. Her ideas got overlooked. A mentor told her, stop softening your words. Drop the I think. Drop the maybe. Say it with belief. She practiced. Next meeting, she said, I believe this is the right move, and here's why. The room shifted. People listened. Her influence doubled, not because her ideas changed, but because her words did. Here's the blunt truth. You are only as credible as your language. If your words are weak, your presence will be forgotten. If your words are strong, your presence will be felt. So here's your challenge. For the next week, cut 3 weak words from your vocabulary. I think. Maybe. I'll try. Replace them with, I believe. We will. I commit. At first, it will feel unnatural, but soon it will become who you are. And once it does, your influence will multiply. Because leadership isn't just about ideas. It's about the words you choose to deliver them. Choose weak words, and you'll sound like everyone else. Choose strong words, and you'll sound like a leader. So speak with clarity. Speak with conviction. Speak with words that make people believe in you. That's the language of influence. Chapter 7. Presence and Confidence. Before you even say a word, people are already deciding who you are. Your body speaks before your mouth does. Your presence announces you before your voice is heard. And here's the truth. If your presence is weak, your words don't matter. Think about walking into a room. Head down, shoulders slouched, eyes darting. Nobody sees a leader. They see insecurity. Now picture the opposite. You walk in tall, shoulders open, eye contact steady. A calm breath anchors you. Before you've spoken a single word, people feel something different. They feel confidence. They feel leadership. Presence is not about arrogance. It's not about dominating with loudness or aggression. It's about calm control. It's about carrying yourself like you belong. Because you do. Here's the mistake most people make. They think confidence is something you either have or you don't. But the truth is, confidence is a habit. It's trained, it's practiced, it's built. And it starts with your body. First, your posture. Stand tall, don't shrink, open your chest, roll your shoulders back, and take up space. When you expand physically, you expand mentally. Science proves it. Power poses change hormone levels and boost confidence. Second, your eye contact. 3 to 5 seconds per person. Not a stare, not a glance, a connection. When you look people in the eye, they feel seen. When they feel seen, they listen. Third, your breath. Nervous people breathe fast and shallow. Leaders breathe slow and deep. When you control your breath, you control your voice. When you control your voice, you control the room. Picture this. You're giving a presentation. Your hands shake. Your heart races. Your voice trembles. Most people think the answer is to fake it. But faking looks exactly like what it is, fake. Instead, pause. Plant your feet. Take 1 deep breath. Lift your head. Then begin. In 5 seconds, you've transformed your presence. Not by pretending, by grounding yourself. Here's the paradox. Confidence isn't what you feel before you act. Confidence is what you create by acting. When you stand tall, breathe deep, and hold eye contact, your brain starts to believe it. Your body teaches your mind to follow. And soon, what felt like pretending becomes real. Let me tell you a story. A young engineer was brilliant, but every time he spoke up in meetings, people dismissed him. He slouched, looked at the floor, mumbled through his points. It wasn't his ideas, it was his presence. A mentor told him, "Before you speak, fix your stance. Open your shoulders, look them in the eyes, speak slow." From the chest, he practiced. At first it felt forced, but within months the shift was undeniable. People stopped interrupting him. They asked for his opinion. He didn't just sound different. He looked different. He felt different. Here's the blunt truth. If you don't project confidence, people won't trust you, no matter how smart you are. Presence isn't optional. It's the foundation of influence. So how do you build it? Practice posture daily. Every time you walk into a room, check your stance. Work on eye contact. Count to 3 silently before shifting your gaze. Control your breathing. Inhale 4 seconds. Hold for 2. Exhale 6. Let calm anchor you. Rehearse on video. Watch how you come across. Adjust until your body speaks leadership. Confidence doesn't mean you never feel nervous. It means you've trained your presence so well that nobody else notices. It means you've built habits that project strength even when your stomach twists inside. So here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, before every meeting, interview, or presentation, run through 3 steps. Stand tall. Breathe deep. Lock eyes. That's it. Simple, but transformational. Because at the end of the day, people don't follow titles. They don't follow resumes. They follow presence. And when your presence radiates confidence, your words carry power. So don't just speak like a leader. Stand like one. Breathe like one. Look like one. Own the room before you even open your mouth. Chapter 8. Outcome. From speaking to leading, leadership is not a title. It's not a corner office. It's not a line on your resume. Leadership is how people feel when you speak. Do they trust you? Do they believe you? Do they want to follow you? That's the true measure. Think about the voices that shaped history. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't command armies, but his words moved millions. Winston Churchill didn't fight on the front lines, but his words kept a nation alive. Steve Jobs didn't just design products. He spoke visions into reality. They weren't just speaking, they were leading. And here's the lesson for you. Every time you open your mouth, you're either gaining influence or losing it. When you own your voice, cut the noise, use the pause, and speak with brevity. When you tell stories, choose strong words and carry yourself with presence. You stop sounding like just another employee. You start sounding like a leader. But here's the paradox. It's not about copying their style. It's about mastering your own. Because leadership communication isn't about pretending. It's about alignment. When your voice matches your vision, when your words match your presence, people feel it. And when they feel it, they follow. Let me tell you something most people never hear. You don't need permission to lead. You don't need a promotion to lead. You don't need a title to lead. You lead the moment you speak like one. When you sit in that meeting and deliver clarity instead of clutter. When you hold silence instead of filling it with fear. When you tell a story that cuts through the noise and lands in the heart. That's leadership. Here's the blunt truth. If you wait for a title to become a leader, you'll be waiting forever. But if you start speaking like a leader today, the title will come to you. Because influence always precedes position. So here's your challenge. Don't just use these tools as tricks. Live them. Every call, every meeting, every conversation. Because every conversation is a stage. Every sentence is a chance to lead. And one day, you'll look back and realize, you didn't just change the way you spoke. You changed the way people saw you. You changed the way you saw yourself. You didn't just learn to speak like a leader. You became one. So start today. Own your voice. Cut the noise. Pause with power. Speak less. Mean more. Tell stories that move. Choose words that influence. Stand with presence. And watch as people don't just hear you, they follow you. If this video gave you even one tool to speak with more confidence, don't just click away. Hit that like button, because it tells us you're serious about growing as a leader. And if you know someone who struggles to be heard at work or in life, share this video with them. You never know how badly they might need it. Now it's your turn. What's the one speaking habit you know you need to fix first? Drop it in the comments. One word is enough. Voice. Fillers. Pauses. Presence. Your answer might spark someone else's breakthrough. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Because tomorrow's video is about the body language mistake that silently destroys authority. And most people don't even realize they're doing it. Trust me, you won't want to miss it.